page. So, all right, so it looks like we're streaming live now.
All right, so welcome again to everybody for coming today. I really appreciate it. And we do have some questions, and Joseph will be answering those as we go along, since I'm not really a super computer person and can talk and educate and answer questions on the side all at the same time. So I have reached out for help, and I've got some great help. So what I wanted to talk about today was the brain, and I have talked about it. It looked like maybe a year and a half ago. I have just a couple of updates and some newer frequencies, because I did improve the WAVwatch from 850 frequencies to 1,000 frequencies. So I just thought I'd share some ideas in a little bit different way for you. And everybody has, caught some of the webinars, but maybe not all of them. So I might be repeating some things for some of you, and this may be completely new information for others. So I hope that you enjoy the information that I've got today. Okay. Hey, I'm assuming you can see me okay. You'll let me know if you can't see or hear me. But basically, don't forget that we have about 70 different workshops on WAVwatch Frequency Fanatics on Facebook. And I know some of you don't use Facebook. You can also check out Rumble and YouTube accounts. There are many videos there, and they're different. We have quite a selection. I think there were 120 videos on Rumble. So anyway, or excuse me, that was YouTube. So anyway, you can check around. You can also go to the website, wavwatch.com, to find out more ideas. And then we're going to be showing and sharing about brain today. So I think I've told you this many times. The whole idea of what I have done with the WAVwatch is to take ancient sound ideas that were simplistic. And I think that's what I like to say a lot, is simplistic. Sometimes I think we have gone beyond, and we want to get so minutely down to such small details, when ancient therapy used a song, a note, a hum, a wind chime, and other simple ideas like humming and toning to improve their health in some aspect. And so that's what I chose to return to. So I did upgrade it so that it's on a wristband, so that we can carry it around, because I'm not a singer, I'm not a chanter, I'm not a toner, but I do drum, but that doesn't mean that I want to listen to drums all day long, So this just updates it into some of our technology. And I've been saying for quite a while that basically this is the world's first sound therapy WAVwatch. But I really had fun when I saw that, hey, maybe it's not a new idea. So in case you haven't seen my webinar on this, it's Ancient Ideas and the WAVwatch. Basically, there are a lot more pictures than just this one, showing ancient Sumerians, I believe, if I'm doing the history right, who actually had some type of a device on their hand. And of course, there's lots of speculation on what that actually might be. But one idea somebody put on Facebook was, well, it could be energies. It could be a home frequency, to bring them back to home. And somebody else said telepathic. I don't know. It's all speculation. But I was just having fun saying, well, maybe, wearing something on your wrist for a self-care idea is not completely new. It's kind of hard to know. Yes.
Hey, Mom, I think you have a video going.
Oh, my goodness. Where?
Okay. Never mind. You're good. So sorry.
Okay.
Continue
Now,
on. I thought there's a video going, but it's not. You're good.
Okay. All right. So anyway, I had just kind of finished that idea. There we go. Can everybody see me again? And then another thing that I think is really fun is that they give ancient civilizations not a lot of credit sometimes, saying they couldn't have figured this out. They had no instruments to measure this. They couldn't have. But somehow every civilization knew how to tune their instruments to 432 hertz. And 432 hertz is actually the frequency of the world. And it's also a frequency that's part of the heart chakra in one civilization. And it's believed to be a facilitator of mental processes and emotional stability. Hey, brain, that's what we're talking about. It's a brain related idea. And it's part of achieving higher levels of mental and emotional clarity. So 432, again, said to be the frequency of the world. So I like to go back and try to capture a lot of ideas that were used by ancient people. So I have also named my business 432 Energetics LLC. So if you get a package from me for the WAVwatch, that's what it says on it. To continue, our bodies and minds are sensitive to a wide range of frequencies in music and sound. And again, I'm just saying this in a different way. David Higgins, who works with sound frequencies, has written about this, how frequencies in music can affect our hormones and release endorphins. They make us feel good and strengthen our immune system. So I'm just trying to share with you some other ways and evidence and authors and people that do know that sound frequencies can affect our lives.
Looks like we have a question from Victoria. Do you have the ability to let her speak up?
Oh, I thought, can you not do that now, Joseph?
Now that you're the host, I can't.
Oh my goodness, what a fun thing today.
Yeah.
Victoria, can you wait till about the end? And we'll answer questions at the end, probably a little bit more.
You can also, if you drop your question in the chat or the Q&A, then I can answer it there as well.
Yes, we've had to change some of our ways that we do the webinar now because we have many people on here. So we were kind of getting behind just a little bit. So we'll try to answer a few more in the chat as we go along. So, and then at the very end, you can ask some questions if that would work, if you still need those questions answered. So another idea that I took special heed for was absorbing vibrations through our skin. And most of us don't really think about that. It's only our ears. We hear through our ears. But we do know that our spine and all of our bones and our skin really does help to assimilate vibrations throughout our body. And so that's how the WAVwatch was put together, so that we don't have to hear something all day long, because we like to multitask. We're busy people, So if we can be working on some easy ways by absorbing frequencies and vibrations through our skin, that makes it a different tool for us to use. And I thought this was interesting. When we're listening to sound, our skin decides which sound waves to block or absorb. And the skin has a lot of cells similar to those in the inner ear. So again, we're just using different methods to absorb these. Now, if I get right down to business today, there's several ideas in the brain folder. So you would just go to organs and you would click on brain. And then these are some ideas that are provided for you to use. And the two that are highlighted in bold are new ones that I've added for the 1,000 frequencies. If you have a watch that has 850 to 870 frequencies on it, then basically you wouldn't have these two types of ideas. But all of these can be used. I have made basically a playlist for you so that you can pick and choose anything that's in the brain folder. You could use all of them, or you could just use one of them. So it's your choice. You're setting it. Obviously, everybody might not have epilepsy, but you might want to use the gamma brainwave. So those are just some ideas of how you could put it together. And then just to explain, if you haven't seen this idea or heard it before, but if I have something labeled epilepsy 1 or number 2, all I'm doing is letting you know that those are a different set of frequencies, but for the same problem. And sometimes you don't know which one might work the best. And so you definitely can play both of them. And to me, the best little fun explanation is that, if you like to listen to Elvis, one song you might hum along with a little bit more than another Elvis song. So, different way to say that. So your body may react differently to different choices that are for the same idea. So another thing that you could play for the brain is all of the emotions. So there's ADD, ADHD, anger. We could zero right into brain concentration, brain energize, brain stimulate. But why would we miss combat disorders if we're worried about our brain or somebody that we know? I like detox mental disorders, emotional balance. All of these really have to do with our brain in some way or the other. So these are all good choices and selections that we could make, whether we make them on a regular basis or we just play through them once in a while. They're all helpful for protecting our brain. And I do know the group of people that tend to order the WAVwatch. We're all aging. I get to say, hey, I'm almost 70, and we are needing some of these ideas, and we're looking for something that is very, that's not toxic, that hopefully is not a medication, and that can do something for us to prevent and protect. And that's the age range that a lot of my viewers are. Not always, but we have some younger, kids using it for ADD and ADHD, that kind of thing. But there are so many ideas here. Emotions continue. So these are all in the emotions folder. There's PTSD, there's schizophrenia, self-image balance, stammering, stuttering, Tourette's syndrome. So a lot of these ideas can be used just for protection, prevention, just something that you can rotate through once in a while to protect yourself. Now, as we also talk about our brain, some other ideas that you might not have thought about could be in the seniors folder. So they are under Alzheimer's, the very first one. And I have mentioned before that my mother has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and it really was a long process. It didn't just happen overnight. There were some clues going on. And unfortunately, I didn't have the WAVwatch developed at that point in time. And some things that were done kind of made it go backwards. And if you haven't heard this story before, be very careful with statins, because statins will increase your chance of Alzheimer's. The statistics I have seen are by up to 60%. And my mother did take a statin at one time that most of the family was not aware of. So it was very upsetting to us. So hopefully you're reaching out to your family and seeing some of those ideas and trying to help that person through with some things before it gets to the point where it's hard to work with. So these could be some things. So I play those once in a while just by myself because I think I need those. My sister does also. Then you could also go to brain, which is in the senior category. And the new one that I have added was agnosia, and this is people recall. And I think I really paid attention to this when I saw some information about Bruce Willis, who was not able to remember people at all. And I'm going, oh, I wonder if there's a frequency for that. And I found it. So that's the one that I've added. But when we have trouble with our brain, most of our senses are mixed up and messed up. And so we can't smell as well. We can't taste as well. We may have trouble with name recall, people recall. I think there's even one for number recall, and I have not been able to find a frequency for that. But again, these are some things I just run through once in a while just to protect myself a little bit. And I'm hoping that that's something that you can do also. Yesterday, I was on an airplane and I sat beside a lady, and she was coughing and hacking and blowing her nose. And she was digging in her purse trying to find some medication. And I think maybe she did find something. And I kind of asked her, I said, hey, are you interested in something else that might be helpful for your cold? And she said, well, yeah. And so I got out a WAVwatch and worked with her on it. And within seriously just a few minutes, using cold and flus, she had stopped that hacking. And then a few minutes later, she had stopped sneezing, is what I should have said, allergies. And I said the wrong thing. We put allergy on her. We decided it was allergies instead of cold and flu, but that would have been a possibility. So anyway, then she did cough, and we put one on for coughing, and her cough seemed to go away. And she just jumped right in and she says, well, can you use this for people's brains? And I'm saying, yes, there are so many ideas out here. And I was able to show her some of these because it is so important for people to know and to pass around the information that there are different ideas out there than more medications, more medications, more medications, or surgery, surgery, surgery. So anyway, I'm hoping that you can share these with people. They are a little bit harder to share when someone is in a facility. So my family's working on that idea. We'll see if there's something that we can come up with for that. Now, another idea that we need to pay attention to when our brain is affected is our sleep patterns. So if you haven't seen this before, I think it's just kind of common sense. If we're not sleeping, we can't, work as well the next day. We've got brain fog. But they've actually narrowed it down, and this comes from the American Brain Foundation. They say that they found this correlation between neurological diseases that include stroke, cognitive aging, dementia, Parkinson's, and others. So when you can't sleep well later on in life, it's not saying the next month, it could be 10 years down the road, you could have trouble. And I do want to say that this is something that my mother really had trouble with, was her sleep pattern. She was awake half the night for several years, as far as I remember. So if you are worrying about your brain, want to protect your brain, make sure that you're sleeping through the night. So there are several different categories for this. So there's an insomnia category and self-care. There's also emotions and sleep. There's 3 different ideas for that. And then there are a couple of other ideas in the insomnia folder. So you could pull all of those together and make sure that you have that categorized and that you're working with sleep, because 50 million Americans suffer from sleep problems. And we're going to be suffering because we have more and more things around us. We have so many more 5G towers. They're all over. They're under us. They're around the corner. They're not as obvious as some of the other towers. We have all kinds of toys in our house that we didn't used to have. I think that's a different way fun way to say it, but we do have things. And so many of us are letting those toys be right beside our head at night as we sleep. So make sure that your whole room is cleaned out, that you don't have your computer in your room beside you. You don't put your cell phone in your room to charge. Even be careful with the type of alarm clock that you have, if that's what you're using, that it's not by your head. So also check to make sure that you don't have any thing coming in behind your headboard. I have had several people say that their bed was actually in front of their box, their electrical box, where everything came into their house. And that's when we discovered the problem with why they couldn't sleep. So, wow. My suggestion to them was to move the bed out of the room if they could, but they couldn't. So I actually went to this person's house and actually did some muscle testing. And we were able to put a big crystal, a quartz stone inside the electrical box. And that seemed to lock a lot of those frequencies. And so that very idea is what they do use for different types of discs and stones and things that you would put on the back of your watch. Or excuse me, I said the wrong thing. You could put it on the back of your watch, but you could put it on the back of your phone also. So I have a sticker on my phone and it is made of quartz. So this does help to keep the radiation down from your cell phone a little bit. So hopefully you've discovered those. If not, we'll keep working on those and letting people know about different ideas for negating frequencies. You could also play in this idea for insomnia. If you are a person that is worried about different 5G towers or whatever around your home, you can play the radiation or the EMF detox. And I forgot to put that on the list today here. And then one other idea that somebody gave me for emotions was OCD and sleep. That they say sometimes their brain is just so busy at night they can't sleep, and they play OCD, and then that helps them to sleep. So whatever it is, you need to reach out and really be working to get yourself to sleep, because what you're doing is protecting your brain. I hope that's making enough sense and I'm not just rattling, but you are protecting your brain when you do that. Now, I don't know if you've heard of this one. I've mentioned it before in my dental 1-hour workshop, but please make sure that you're taking care of your teeth too. There are a couple of studies that do show that gum disease, tooth loss, and Alzheimer's all fit together. So in one different study, they tracked 144 nuns. And they found that their dementia risk was 6.4 times higher when they lost more teeth. So that's a huge one. And as you can imagine, every tooth has a pathway, an energetic pathway, a meridian pathway that goes through your body. So one tooth can actually affect several different organ systems, and the brain is always affected by almost every single tooth. So very huge connection. Now, another one that was done with 60 patients, it was a smaller study, but they found that the more teeth you lose, the more problems you have with teeth, that it does cause problem with moderate dementia. So, but that one was the same. It was a 6-fold increase in cognitive decline. So how many studies do we need to know that we've got to take good care of our teeth to protect our mental state? So this is a whole idea that you could go to for your brain. So you thought we were just talking about brains today, and it's kind of evolved into dental and to sleep and all kinds of things. But those are part of how our brain starts to break down in some manner. So this is the list completely of dental ideas. And each one of these are about 30 minutes long. Some of them may be 8 minutes. As I developed the WAVwatch, I found out that if I made them 8 minutes, I could put a few more things on the WAVwatch. So they're between 8 and 30 minutes long. But it's a great idea just to put those on a loop and play those all night long once in a while. You've got to keep your teeth cleaned up the best you can, and use many other ideas, obviously. Not just this particular one, but this is how the WAVwatch could help you with your brain by protecting your teeth. Now, the opposite idea is bone diseases. So many people have had problems with their teeth and their bones at the same time. Bone and periodontal diseases on there, bone regeneration, osteomyelitis, that kind of thing, bone inflammation and infection. So those would all be just as good as the dental to play once in a while also. Now, some of you may not have heard my personal testimony, which I can tell you right now, but one day I woke up and I thought I had a sinus infection coming on. So I just started playing sinus on the WAVwatch, and it really didn't clear up. So about noon, I think I might have changed it to headache. I had a headache by then, and that didn't seem to work. And so I went to bed that night, and I was a little bit disgusted at my own tool, my own invention. I'm going, wow, that didn't work, you know. And I went ahead and went to bed. And in the middle of the night, I woke up basically thinking I was screaming out loud. I sat up in bed, and my hands were on my, face. And I was in pain. It felt to me like the top portion of my teeth were on fire. Luckily, I had my wits about me, and I played osteomyelitis 1 or 2, and I actually muscle tested in my, in my screaming fit, and figured out which one I wanted to use. And guess what happened? To me, it was about 8 or 10 seconds. I actually felt frequency or energy go from my fingertips all the way up to my shoulders and across, and then up my neck, and then across my teeth. And it wasn't all of them, it was just a portion of them. And I could feel it actually going up and down and up and down and up and down, but it just zipped, And so within a few seconds, that was all gone. And every single problem that I'd had that day was gone, just instantly. So it is a matter sometimes of finding out exactly what you have, which is why we tend to run from doctor to doctor, because one doctor can't figure it out. Another doctor, you go to another one, and you're trying to eliminate the problem. But I eliminated my problem really quickly at home without having to go anywhere. And obviously, I'm not sure how I would have felt the next morning if I hadn't been able to get away with, to get that osteomyelitis, which is a bone infection, taken care of just very quickly in my bed that night. So anyway, I hope that wasn't too long of a story, but it's very huge for me to think that that's my example of not having to go from one place to another and make appointments over a 2 or 3 month period. You have something on your hand that you can at least start with, and then as needed, make sure that you are visiting your doctors and making those appointments. But at least you have something to help you. All right. Or that could possibly help you. See, I have to be careful of my speech here. Sorry about that. Now, another idea with our brain, as we, at any age, is bladder problems and UTI. So these are directly connected with brain problems. So you can be around someone who's suddenly getting confused and, having trouble with their brain or brain fog or anything that you can think of, hallucinations, rambling speech, disorientation, as I read my own screen. Those are some ideas that can happen when you have a UTI. And so often they do not link that. Now, hopefully your area, if you have a person that you know and love that is in assisted living or, under care of a medical doctor, hopefully they're recognizing that very quickly. But sometimes they do not. It goes on and on and on. And there are many examples of that. So if you are noticing that you are having some brain difficulty, you may not even feel the UTI, but it's affecting your brain. So that is another idea that you can use to work with different kinds of helping yourself to make sure that your brain is not irritated. Again, UTIs do that. So you would play through the bladder folder. All types of ideas. Incontinence is there. The list goes on and on. So don't forget that UTIs are linked to brain problems. And again, sometimes it is very hard to figure out which one it is until the problem just gets, rapidly out of control. So start with something simple because you have something on your watch. You may need to try 2 or 3 different ideas. Sound therapy can be very, very good. There's all kinds of ways that we learn about music and the human brain. And it's very important that we explore sound therapy, which is what we're doing here. Different types of sound therapies can bring comfort and solace, all of this type of idea, and help us to focus better. So don't forget, that's what the WAVwatch is trying to do in a different manner. All right, I have a few more slides and I was trying to find them. This is a little bit longer one, and I wanted to make sure I had time to play this. It is longer. I may stop it if we need to, but what I'm seeing is that people are maybe struggling to make a playlist. I try to give some videos on it, but just in case, this is making a playlist for brain ideas, and it's just kind of me fumbling through. So I hope you appreciate my effort here, and hopefully this will be able to see this very clearly.
I'd like to show you a few ideas about setting playlists on the WAVwatch. Now, you don't want to get too excited on this, but I think the brain that we've been talking about today and all of those frequencies are perfect to add to a playlist because there's some in different categories. So obviously the first thing you're going to do is hold the bottom button for 3 seconds to have the watch turn on. You'll wait a couple of seconds for it to rev up, and then obviously you have 3 swipe screens. So the first thing you need to do is to have read your book and look through it so that you realize that there might be several categories that have brain ideas in them. So I just happen to know that we have some in emotions. So I'm going to tab or touch the emotions folder. And I can see that there's several ideas here, but I'm looking for basically, and I've already jumped into it, so this happens to us sometimes. So I'm looking for brain concentration. So I'm simply going to touch that brain concentration folder, and then we'll come to the main screen. So there are so many things that we can do here, but we're just going to make it easy. We're going to just touch the heart icon, and that will immediately put this into playlist number 1. Now we'll be talking about playlist number 2 and 3 a little bit later. So just a few more touches of the button to get it there. Now we have a couple of opportunities. We can go forward 1 because I just happen to know that there is brain energize and stimulate is the next one. So I'm also going to touch the heart button also. Now I could go back and continue down. I could see that I might want calming, and I can touch that button there. Now if I go back, if I think I've skipped one, I can tell because the heart is still checked. So that one is in my folder too. So I can go forward. That one's in my folder. I could keep going forward if I wanted, or I can go back to make some more selections. So we could go this way, and each person is going to choose. Now I like this particular one, detox mental disorders. So hey, that's me. So I'm going to touch that one and actually put up, check the heart symbol also. So I could put a few more in as I go on down, or I could go back. Again, you have your choices, but you have to be, a little bit slower on your fingers once in a while. Sometimes if you have trouble, you might, pinch your fingers together a little bit, warm them up. Somebody might want PTSD, but I'm seeing mental clarity right here. That's the one I want. And then I want to touch that heart button. So now I think I've got everything that I wanted out of that folder because I looked at my booklet before I got started. So now what I'm going to do is go back, and I know that there are a couple of ideas in the organ folder. So we're going to go there, and you could go back to the icons, or you could just go back to this screen here. So we see brain, and then I don't need brain abscess. Somebody might. So we've got some different ideas there. So we're going to go ahead and go on down the ideas, and what I saw was brain stimulate, and I'm going to put it there. All I had to do was check that heart folder. Now I can go back and see if there's anything else that I want. There are several different ideas. Oh, I see a gamma brain wave. So I think I'm going to put that one in there. Okay. And all I had to do again was check the heart button. So then I'm going to back up and I'm going to go to the last folder that I saw. Oh, and I might say, oh, maybe I want hypothalamus. And I can do that at the last minute too. So lots of different things to do. It's not that hard, just getting the feel for going back and forth with your fingers. Now I'm going to go back one more time, and this time I'm looking for seniors. And again, I could go back a couple more times. And, you know, that was a lot easier to go right where I was at. But you can do everything two different ways. So here's the icon for seniors. And this time I'm looking at Alzheimer's. My mother has Alzheimer's, so I'm a little bit concerned about that. And somebody might say, oh, but you don't have Alzheimer's. But I'm still going to be doing some prevention. So I'm going to put that one in. I'm going to go to the next one. And don't forget Alzheimer's 1 and 2 or anything numbered a little bit differently. It's just the same song, maybe in a little bit different key, sang by a different singer. So that's pretty easy to take care of. And then here's one for depression. I'm going to skip that one. Here's another one for insomnia. That happens to be a problem with our brain, so I am going to check that particular one. And then I'm going to go forward. And here's Lewy body. I'm skipping that one. Trauma, skipping that one. And then it goes into the next folder down, which is arthritis. So we're wanting to work only with brain. So I'm going to go back and back. And now I can see brain right here. And then I want to check all of these, because if you've done your homework on your brain or Alzheimer's, you know that people have problems with sense of taste and smell and name recall. So I can go through and easily add all of these. Again, just touching the arrow and going back and forth. Now, if I want to see how I've done, I simply go to the lower bars. I don't know if you can really see those, but the menu bar, and I'm going to touch the menu bar, and then I'm going to touch home. Now, we want to remember this because we're going to go back and do some other things later, but we'll go home, and then, see, I didn't touch that quite right, so I got myself in got to go back several steps, and then we're finally back. But sometimes that does happen. Don't get frustrated, just let it go. So then we're going to swipe across to favorites, and we'll touch playlist number 1, and then we'll see the 11 ideas that I put in there. Now there were a few more that I could have, but for sake of the short video, that's what we did. And when I'd like to show you a few ideas about setting.
Okay, so I hope that wasn't too long, but we do have quite a few people who need a little bit of extra support for putting a playlist together. And the brain is one of the playlists that, you know, maybe has you jumping back and forth between more folders. When I originally put ideas together, I tried to put some ideas in different categories so people would see them rather than miss everything completely and realize that there were quite a few frequencies for the brain. So I have another video, and I'm hopeful that this one will play too. This is just a lady who shared with me that she had PTSD. And so she's a perfect example of an elderly person who has been pretty traumatized. And her story is very unique because she simply said it was her great grandchildren who were who she thought she used the word PTSD. So believe what your mind thinks, you know. So we played PTSD for her on the WAVwatch, and here's what happened. Got a couple of different ideas to show you.
Today, my friend Linda helped me with a new program that she's working on. And when I came in, I had a very stressful headache. It hurt so bad to touch both temples. And right now, after she has worked with me, I can press on my temples and it doesn't hurt at all. The headache seems to have subsided, and that's one thing. And then another thing is that I feel much more relaxed. When I came in, I was seem to have felt so much more relaxed, not as much tension as I had before. And in relaxing, I noted that my left shoulder, under my left shoulder blade, wasn't as tight and as tense as it had been in the past. And all in all, I think that she has a good idea. And I think I'm coming back to let her help me with something else.
I hope you enjoyed that one. It was a little maybe hard to hear. And I'm not sure where I'm going here.
So
Uh,
this is probably going to be one of our
hmm.
more popular videos because I imagine it's going to be sent.
Oh, isn't this fun? Okay, so Joseph, I'm trying to get that off. Never had this happen before.
I'm here.
I can't
So,
even get, there is another one.
you want to go back to your slides and share that screen or your desktop?
Just,
What this device is
that
a lot
doesn't
of people
take that
started
one off.
wearing it, and even my lady that does my
You'll have to close the window with your YouTube
she's
that's
like,
playing the
"What is that?" And I
video.
was like, "What, the big screen TV?"
I
And
can't
"Yes."
find
And
it.
she's
That's
like,
what I was
"Oh."
telling.
And I told her about it, and she's like, "I need one." And I'm like,
I
"You're
am
right."
so sorry about this.
Okay, you'll get it.
Pardon?
Um,
Oh, there it is. Did I get it?
not
There we go.
yet.
Finally got that. I am so sorry.
It's,
Okay.
we don't, you got to share your screen. There's
There you
nothing
go.
shared there. All right, I think you're good now.
Wow. So what I was trying to show you, and can you see this, Joseph? The thermography images?
Yes, you're good.
All right. So what I was trying to show everybody was this lovely lady that just gave me a testimony in my office. I was able to do thermography on her. And some of you may have seen these pictures before in images, but all of you have not. So I hope this jogs your memory if you need it jogged. But this is a camera system that measures heat patterns. And so the image on the left shows a lot of heat. So of course, white is the hottest. Red, oranges, and yellows go down in temperature. And our nose is supposed to be blue, and our cheeks will have that blue effect normally. So she was complaining of lots of stress and problems, up here, and you can see how red she is down here. So we put the WAVwatch prototype on her for 30 minutes and took the second image. So she had tension, headache, stress relief in the first 30 minutes. And then the third picture that is on the right is after an hour of playing some of these ideas. So here's the other ideas that we played, and I think it's pretty obvious you can tell the difference. And then you heard her testimony. I know it might have been a little soft, but she was very excited that that pain and pressure had gone away. So here's a side view. Don't you think if you looked like that you would have had a headache and stress, and your shoulders would be jumbled and that kind of thing? So she had relief in 30 minutes, another 30 minutes. So we played inflammation, PTSD, and trauma. So those are the ideas that we used, and we can show you that indeed something did change with her, and she was very pleased. So all of you don't have access to thermography, but hopefully you'll be feeling the changes that you did. And we've seen this quite a few times in people, that they definitely have different ideas for their bodies after they play something different. And each person might be different. Someone who thinks they might have PTSD, that particular one might not work for them, but combat trauma might work for them. So some different ideas there, but these are all related to the brain and problems that we have. So I've got one more little one. This one's only a minute, and this is how you put frequencies into playlist number 2 and 3. And again, people ask about this. Some people can see the directions in the back of the book on putting together a playlist, but those playlists may not make as much sense to them, So the directions are on page 19, if you need that, or we're going to try today to show you a simplified version also.
Now, let's say that we have somebody who we want to make a second playlist for, maybe a husband and wife, or maybe you're sharing this watch with somebody who's in assisted living, like my mom, and can't do it herself. So we might want a playlist made and all ready to go. So basically what we're going to do is a little bit different. We're going to find the particular idea that we want, and I'll show you this again with maybe just a little bit different idea. So if we wanted to go to chronic, we could go down to chronic fatigue, and we could touch that one. Now this is a little bit different right here. Instead of putting it in the heart folder, you have to touch the menu bar. And then you very carefully go down. This one just goes one at a time, and you'll see add to playlist. So you'll touch add to playlist, and then you'll see your 3 playlists there. So we're going to add this to playlist number 2. And when I touch that, it opens up and it says chronic fatigue, yes or no. So you're going to touch yes, and it's now gives you a signal it's added to playlist number 2. Now, if I want to remove this, I have to go down one arrow, and it will give me a choice of which playlist. And then it will say remove from playlist, yes. So that's a pretty easy one there. Now, if you want to add it to playlist 3, not too hard now. You're going to add that to playlist number 3. If you want to take it out, you're going to remove from the playlist right in those particular areas.
Okay, to kind of finish up with just a couple more ideas, another idea that we can use for the brain seriously is all of the chakras. You can just go through these and let it play, and these are very open for different kinds of emotion and brain because of this. And I think this is very important. So sometimes I have some questions about the chakras, and I just like to let everybody know it's just a frequency that was envisioned, that was worked with, that was determined, that was measured, whatever phrasing you want to say, by a different group of people. It doesn't mean that it's negative necessarily. It is a frequency. And we were given frequencies, lots of different ways to say that, I don't want to, I'm not a preacher, or I'm not a pastor. I am not anything like that. I'm just letting you know that frequencies have been around from the beginning of time. So it is important to know that those are a few more things that you can do for the brain. Very, very important. I think I actually have a few minutes if someone would like to, if we need to catch up on a couple of questions or anything. All right. So there might be a few more ideas or questions at this point in time, Joseph.
Yeah, well, I can tell you maybe 1 or 2 questions that would be good for the public. One person asked about, just to follow up on how are the frequencies created, or where did you get the information on that? And you answered a little bit about chakras, but I don't know I can read you the question. Let me find it. I think it's from Nancy.
Oh, I think I can go from there, JR. So basically, these frequencies were measured in about the 1900s, 1910s, quite a time period in there. They say that Tesla measured some frequencies, that he even had a vibration plate that he stood on, and one of his best friends was Mark Twain, and that they did quite a bit of experimentation with it. So then there may have been some others that I do not know about, but the next person is Dr. Royal Rife, and he basically measured a lot of frequencies and actually had a lot of support on, especially on the West Coast, medical doctors on the West Coast. He had measured frequencies, and they were actually advertising, "Is cancer cured?" because he had about 16 cases of cancer that went away with his frequencies. Now, I'm not saying that the WAVwatch works with these same frequencies. What I'm saying is that started us measuring frequencies. And so frequencies have been measured for a long time. They've been able to measure every frequency. And I don't want to make it sound like I'm a genius. There's books that have frequency lists in them. So these frequencies have been measured for a long time. But sadly, during the 1920s and 30s, the American Medical Association basically said that frequencies were illegal to use. They were concerned that there were some tools that were being put together that might not be safe for people to use. But remember what the choice was they gave instead was medicine, prescriptions, pharmaceuticals, and you can make your choices about using those versus sound frequencies that may or may not have been safe. But I'm always of the idea that sound frequencies are safe. If we can't speak to someone, what kind of a world do we live in? Our acoustical frequencies from 20 to 20,000 are considered safe and have been safe since the beginning of time. Okay, hopefully that wasn't rambling too much, Joseph.
Yeah, that's great. Somebody else had asked about gamma rays. I think earlier in the presentation you were discussing that. Is that
Okay,
correct?
so that's a brain wave. That's about 40 hertz, if that's what I'm thinking you're asking about. So that is a very well-known frequency that can balance the brain. And it is at the lower end of our hearing spectrum for people to hear. Now, some people, I mentioned 20 to 20,000. Obviously, some people cannot hear the low end or the high end. So, there's a smaller range in there. And then our speakers have to be able to play that particular frequency also. So the low end and the high end of frequencies sometimes are a little, or not, I don't use them as much because the representation of that frequency might not be true with a speaker. Okay.
Okay. A couple other questions we have for some names of the books on frequencies. I don't know if you want to share that, or where
you
does
can
it
just go on the internet and just look for them. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the Marilyn asked, where does the frequency send the problem? I think trying to understand your question, Marilyn, but maybe Linda has a thought on that.
Say that again. Where does
the frequency send the problem? Maybe she's trying to understand how the watch is working.
Okay. So the watch works on the whole idea of resonance. So they know that everything has a frequency. So it's an easy one to kind of talk about a bacteria sitting in your system, and it just sits in there in your teeth, let's say, and it's in there vibrating at its little vibration. So they have measured those vibrations from exact bacteria, and that's what the WAVwatch has on it, exact vibrations. So when you wear it and set it on a bacteria for your teeth, for instance, it sends the same vibration in, and it just goes through your system, and it will just keep going through until it meets a matching vibration. And then those two vibrations meet. I don't know if I can show it here. They're meeting, and they actually self-amplify and fall apart. So it doesn't have to kind of hone into it. It just sends it throughout your body with a vibration, sends it throughout your body. And then if it meets a matching resonant frequency, they have a reaction. And usually that's called self-amplification. And another way, Tesla called it the mortal oscillation rate. So when two like frequencies meet, they will
They cancel out.
self-amplify. They cancel
Yeah.
out.
So a question for you from Nancy. Nancy's got a lot of questions, and we're glad you're here. She said she has the first version, and she wanted to know if you have frequencies for HSV1, HSV2, herpes simplex virus, I'm assuming. I know that you do have herpes on here. I'm not sure if
Yes,
it's
I think those are,
HSV.
yeah, I think those are in there. And a lot of times
Um,
people ask about, they're in the virus category under
mhm.
germs.
Yep. So we
Mhm.
do, and I'll drop the link in there for you, Nancy. So
Yes.
we just got one or two questions left. We may not get to all of these, but what I'd like to do is just to let you all know, we are now going to change the format so that this is live streaming, and we're going to have a private webinar for specific questions about health or the watch or how it works. Just things that we can be more informal and not be live streaming on Facebook. So we'll go ahead and wrap this up. But before we do, I'm going to drop the link in. Give me 1 minute to find this. And if you have any other closing thoughts, Mom, while I drop this link in for the private webinar.
All
Private
right.
Zoom.
Thank you so much for coming today. And I hope that you've gotten a few tidbits, a little bit of information, because I am really concerned about protecting our brain today. We have so many toxins. I didn't even talk about that. That's another idea. You need to be playing, detox, because our brain has been, what's the good word I want to say? Our brains have been tampered with so easily through our food. Everything affects it. So please be protecting your brain. We do have a huge amount of people who, as we age in our society, as it gets older and older, we're having trouble. And obviously we've got to have people to take care of us unless we start taking care of ourselves now. And so you have a tool to do that with. Thanks.
All right. So people are saying that chat is disabled, so they can't see the private Zoom link. And I think that's from Bill. I'm sending. Okay, so um, it should be public. Yeah, that's going to all. Okay, great point here. Okay, so Nancy had just asked about the link, and I answered you. So the public link is here. Under Nancy's last question. Does everybody see that? If you don't see the link, would you raise your hand?
So everybody should go ahead and go there.
Well, it looks like some people are not seeing the link, so I'm going to send it to them privately. But yeah, everybody go ahead and go over there. And okay, David, do you see the link now? If you go to the Q&A that says answered, there's both a question from Nancy and from Dilip with the link. Okay. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.